What seems more reasonable to you? That someone might call you and ask you to join a professional baseball team or football team, or that you would be a saint? You know, in some ways, I think being a professional athlete sounds more reasonable. But the reality is that God calls each one of us to holiness and to be saints. And if he calls us, it's something that must be attainable. It must be something that we can attain. And I love, Pope Francis just recently wrote a new apostolic letter, Gaudete et Exultate, which are just the first few Latin words of the letter, which means rejoice and be glad. And in this letter, what he's doing, he says, is reminding us to repropose the call to holiness for us in our lives. And what an awesome call. And so I wanted to spend a couple weeks looking at that and just really entering into this call to holiness. So he starts off by reminding us that there are saints next door. And it's a reminder that some of the greatest moments of history, some of the most decisive moments in history, are filled with saints that no one will ever write about, that no one ever knows about, that in these moments, great saints arise and do great things. And so saints might not be known to the world, but they're all known to God. And so he reminds us that each and every one of us are called to holiness, are called to do amazing things. One of the things he says is that holiness is the most attractive face of the church. You know, holiness invites people and draws people into the church because they see Jesus in us. And so he reminds us that holiness is a call that takes our entire lives, that we must see our lives as a mission. You know, and I think one of the things he talks about too is that sometimes we can be afraid of holiness. And that might sound kind of funny at first, but what he's saying is we think of holiness as this cookie cutter, where to be holy is to be a certain way. And so to be holy, we have to all act the same or all do the same thing. But he's saying, no, actually, when we're more holy, when we're holier, when holiness, invades our lives, that we're actually more human. We're actually more alive. And so the invitation of the Pope's letter, Rejoice and Be Glad, is to rediscover Jesus, to be re-engaged in our faith and engaged in our mission, and know that Jesus calls you to great things, to holiness. And he closes out the first chapter by reminding us, the quote, that the only tragedy in life is not to be a saint. Don't be afraid of your call to holiness today. God is calling you to be a saint.